Ladies and gentlemen, in the journey of life, we often ask ourselves why men leave the women they once cherished. The answer lies not just in the actions or circumstances, but deep within the spiritual and moral fabric that holds relationships together. When a man distances himself from the woman who once stood by his side, it is often because he has, in some way, lost the connection to the higher principles that originally united them. Faith and belief are not merely abstract ideas. They are the cornerstone of lasting human connection. When a man abandons his inner compass, the God within himself, he also drifts away from the woman who represents that sacred bond. Relationships are not sustained by mere attraction or convenience. They are forged through shared purpose, mutual respect, and a commitment to a greater vision that transcends the everyday trials. Personal growth is a relentless journey. A man who does not cultivate a spirit, who neglects the discipline of self-mastery, will find himself vulnerable to distractions and fleeting desires. In this vulnerability, the connection to the woman, to the love that once thrived, begins to erode. It is the failure to nurture the inner self that causes the outer relationship to falter. A woman who stands as a pillar of strength, embodying values and integrity, reflects the divine qualities that a man must seek within himself. When these qualities are ignored or undervalued, the man's path diverges, driven by emptiness rather than fulfillment. It is not that he leaves the woman, but that he leaves the essence of who he is meant to be. Understand this. The departure is a call for awakening. It is a challenge to reclaim the higher self and realign with the principles that build enduring love. When a man rediscovers the sacred within himself, he returns, not just to the woman, but to the very foundation of faith, respect, and true partnership that neither time nor circumstance can break. Faith and belief form the invisible but unbreakable foundation upon which all enduring relationships are built. It is often said that love alone cannot sustain a connection through the storms of life. Rather, it is the deeper force of shared faith, faith in each other, faith in a purpose beyond the immediate, and faith in a higher power, that gives couples the strength to endure. This faith is not limited to religion alone. It is a profound belief in values, principles, and an inner moral compass that guides every decision, every word, and every act of love. When a man steps away from this inner faith, he begins to drift from the very essence of what connects him to the woman who once stood firmly beside him. This disconnect happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, but with devastating consequences. Without a firm foundation rooted in faith and belief, relationships become fragile, vulnerable to the winds of doubt, frustration, and temptation. The man who loses his spiritual anchor loses not only his way, but also the connection to the woman who mirrors his own highest potential. Belief is the bedrock of trust. Trust is not blind, it is a product of faith. Faith in the character, intentions, and heart of another person. When a man harbors belief in his partner, he is willing to invest effort, patience, and forgiveness, even in moments of hardship. He sees beyond surface disagreements to the deeper value of the person before him. But once that belief falters, suspicion and resentment take root. It becomes easier to focus on flaws rather than virtues, on failures rather than successes, and the distance grows wider. The principle that faith must be mutual is essential. A relationship thrives only when both parties believe in a shared vision, a common mission that transcends the individual. This vision acts as a lighthouse, guiding through dark nights and rough seas. Without it, the relationship becomes directionless, subject to the shifting tides of external pressures. When a man loses sight of this shared purpose, he feels unmoored and his heart drifts away. It is important to recognize that this faith is not a passive state. It demands constant nurturing. Just as a flame requires oxygen to burn bright, faith requires attention, reflection, and action to remain alive in a relationship. When a man neglects this inner work, when he stops cultivating his belief in the relationship, in the values they share, and in the possibility of a future together, the bond weakens. It becomes vulnerable to distractions, to the seductive pull of easier, less demanding paths. Consider that faith also brings resilience. In any meaningful relationship, challenges and conflicts are inevitable, but it is faith that allows partners to weather storms without losing sight of their commitment. A man who trusts in the enduring value of his relationship will approach difficulties as opportunities for growth rather than reasons to abandon ship. He understands that faith is the bridge over troubled waters, connecting hearts when emotions run high. There is also a profound connection between faith and personal integrity. A man who holds strong to his beliefs is less likely to be swayed by momentary temptations or external influences. His faith acts as a shield, protecting the sanctity of his relationship. This integrity is visible to the woman beside him and creates a deep sense of security. When faith falters, the sense of security erodes, and suspicion can take its place. The loss of trust that follows often marks the beginning of the end. The absence of faith can sometimes manifest as indifference. When belief is lacking, passion fades, and interactions become mechanical or superficial. The man who once invested emotionally and spiritually may begin to withdraw, creating an emotional chasm. The woman may sense this shift intuitively, feeling the cold distance where warmth once thrived. This silence is not merely physical, it is the absence of shared belief, the loss of spiritual connection. Moreover, faith fosters a unique kind of hope, the hope that through effort, understanding, and love, obstacles can be overcome. It inspires perseverance. Without this hope, despair can settle in, causing one or both partners to give up prematurely. A man anchored in faith sees potential and possibility, not just problems. His belief sustains him during times when the relationship demands patience and sacrifice. Faith also encourages humility and forgiveness. It teaches that no person is perfect and that mistakes are part of growth. When a man embraces this belief, he is more willing to forgive the shortcomings of the woman beside him and to seek forgiveness for his own. This cycle of grace nurtures healing and renews connection. Finally, faith is deeply linked with vision, the ability to see beyond the present moment and imagine a future together. A man who shares a clear vision with his partner is committed not only to the now, but also to the unfolding story of their lives. This vision is infused with faith, faith in each other's capacity to grow, in their shared dreams, and in the enduring power of their union. Without this faith, without this deep, seated belief in the goodness and potential of the relationship, a man's heart may wander. It is not the woman who is lost, but the man's own spiritual connection that fades. Restoring this faith requires conscious effort, self-reflection, and a return to the principles that initially sparked the bond. In understanding this, we begin to see why faith and belief are far more than abstract concepts. They are the lifeblood of lasting love and the invisible threads that hold souls together through every trial and triumph. When a man's faith remains strong, he remains firmly by the side of the woman who shares his journey. When we examine why a man might leave the woman he once loved, we must look closely at the spiritual and moral connections that bind them. These connections are the unseen forces that give meaning and depth to any relationship. Without a strong spiritual or moral bond, two people, no matter how close they once were, begin to drift apart as if caught in opposing currents. The absence of this connection weakens the very fabric that holds hearts together. Spiritual connection is often misunderstood as something purely religious, but it goes far beyond that. It is about the alignment of values, principles, and the shared understanding of what is truly important in life. It is the recognition of a higher purpose in their union, a purpose that inspires and uplifts rather than confines or divides. When a man loses this connection, he begins to see the relationship as empty, lacking the deeper significance that once made it vital. The moral connection plays a similarly critical role. It is the sense of integrity, honesty, and mutual respect that creates a safe space for love to grow. When a man feels that this moral foundation is compromised or neglected, he experiences internal conflict. The relationship no longer represents a sanctuary, but becomes a place of tension and disillusionment. Without moral clarity and commitment, love can wither under the weight of misunderstandings, betrayals, or unmet expectations. It is important to understand that this spiritual and moral connection requires active participation. It is not something that can be taken for granted or assumed to exist simply because two people are together. Both individuals must nurture their inner selves and communicate openly about their beliefs, values, and dreams. When this dialogue ceases or becomes superficial, the connection fades, leaving a void that can easily be filled by doubt or distance. A man who loses this connection often finds himself disconnected not only from the woman, but from his own sense of purpose and meaning. This internal disconnection can manifest as restlessness or dissatisfaction, causing him to seek fulfillment outside the relationship. It is not necessarily that the woman is at fault. Rather, the man is out of alignment with the deeper principles that once guided him. Moreover, the absence of this connection weakens the resilience of the relationship. Challenges and conflicts are inevitable, but when there is a shared spiritual and moral foundation, couples can face difficulties together with strength and unity. Without it, small disagreements grow into irreparable divides. The relationship loses its ability to heal and evolve. When the spiritual and moral bond is strong, it also inspires growth in both partners. They become each other's support systems, encouraging one another to live authentically and strive for higher ideals. This mutual growth reinforces the connection and deepens the love between them. But when this bond is broken, growth stalls and stagnation takes hold. It is essential to realize that rekindling this connection requires honest self-examination and a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths. A man must look within and rediscover the values that once gave his life and relationships meaning. Only by realigning with these principles can he restore the connection to the woman he once cherished. In the end, the loss of spiritual and moral connection is a powerful reason why a man may leave the woman who loves him. It is a call for renewal, an opportunity to rebuild the relationship on a stronger foundation or to seek new paths with greater awareness. The journey back to connection begins with faith in the higher purpose that unites two souls beyond the fleeting moments of life. The journey of personal growth and self-mastery is fundamental to the strength and endurance of any meaningful relationship. When a man neglects his own inner development, he inevitably creates a gap between himself and the woman who once shared his dreams and aspirations. This gap widens over time, fueled by unmet needs, unspoken frustrations, and the absence of the evolving connection that growth inspires. Self-mastery is the ability to control one's thoughts, emotions, and actions, an ongoing discipline that shapes character and destiny. A man who pursues this discipline becomes a leader in his own life, capable of facing challenges with clarity and courage. Without it, he becomes reactive, easily swayed by external pressures, distractions, or fleeting desires. This lack of inner control spills over into his relationships, causing instability and disconnection. When personal growth is ignored, stagnation sets in. The man who stops evolving mentally, emotionally, and spiritually begins to see his relationship as a burden rather than a blessing. He may feel trapped or misunderstood, not because the woman has changed, but because he has ceased to grow alongside her. Growth fuels passion and mutual respect. Without it, relationships can feel stale and lifeless. Self-mastery also cultivates emotional intelligence, the ability to understand and manage one's emotions while empathizing with others. A man lacking in emotional intelligence struggles to communicate effectively, to resolve conflicts, and to provide the emotional support that a woman needs. This gap can create feelings of loneliness and dissatisfaction, pushing both partners apart. Moreover, personal growth encourages responsibility and accountability. A man committed to mastering himself takes ownership of his actions and their impact on the relationship. He does not blame or withdraw, but actively works to improve and to build a partnership grounded in trust and respect. Without this sense of responsibility, frustration grows and resentment quietly erodes the bond. The journey of self-mastery is deeply connected to purpose. A man who understands his purpose is driven by a vision that inspires him to be better, to contribute meaningfully, and to love deeply. This sense of direction aligns his actions with his values, making him a reliable and inspiring partner. When purpose is lost, a man's focus shifts away from nurturing his relationship toward chasing distractions that provide temporary relief but no lasting fulfillment. It is important to remember that personal growth is not a solitary journey. In a committed relationship, growth must be mutual. Both partners need to evolve, challenge themselves, and support one another. When one stops growing, the relationship risks becoming unbalanced. The woman may continue to grow and seek connection, while the man remains stagnant, creating distance. To maintain a thriving partnership, a man must embrace the discipline of self-mastery as a lifelong commitment. This involves continuous learning, self-reflection, and the courage to change. It requires humility to acknowledge weaknesses and the determination to transform them. Only then can he fully engage with the woman who walks beside him, contributing to a relationship that is vibrant, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. When personal growth is prioritized, the relationship becomes a powerful source of inspiration. Each partner lifts the other to new heights, sharing victories and overcoming setbacks together. The connection deepens as they evolve in harmony, creating a bond that is not merely emotional, but rooted in shared values and mutual growth. Without self-mastery and personal development, the connection weakens. The man who neglects these essential elements may drift away, not because he lacks love, but because he lacks the inner strength to sustain the love. His departure is a reflection of a deeper struggle within, a call to return to the path of growth, responsibility, and purpose that honors both himself and the woman who once held his heart. Mutual respect, purpose, and shared vision are the pillars that uphold any lasting relationship. Without these, even the strongest bonds can crumble under pressure. A man who leaves the woman he once loved often does so because these essential elements have been neglected or lost over time. The absence of respect, the lack of a unifying purpose, and the failure to cultivate a shared vision create cracks that widen into separation. Respect is more than politeness or courtesy. It is the deep appreciation for the worth and dignity of another human being. When respect is present, differences are honored rather than dismissed, and individuality is celebrated alongside unity. A man who holds respect for the woman beside him values her thoughts, feelings, and dreams. He listens with intention and acts with consideration. But when respect fades, criticism and contempt take its place, eroding trust and warmth. Without respect, love cannot thrive. It becomes fragile, vulnerable to misunderstandings and resentment. Purpose binds two people together by giving their relationship meaning beyond the day-to-day routine. When a couple shares a sense of purpose, they become partners in a mission greater than themselves. This purpose can be as simple as raising a family with shared values, or as ambitious as building a life that impacts others positively. It creates motivation, endurance, and a reason to overcome difficulties. However, when a man loses sight of this shared purpose, he begins to feel disconnected, as if the relationship no longer serves the vision he once believed in. Without purpose, the relationship risks becoming a source of frustration instead of fulfillment. Shared vision is the blueprint for the future, a picture painted together of what life can be. It is the mutual understanding of goals, values, and hopes that directs decisions and actions. When vision is aligned, couples move forward as a team, supporting each other's growth and celebrating progress. But when visions diverge or are never fully developed, confusion and conflict arise. The man may feel lost or misunderstood, and the woman may sense the growing distance. This divergence often leads to the painful decision to part ways. The absence of mutual respect, purpose, and shared vision does not happen overnight. It is often the result of neglect, complacency, or unresolved conflicts that erode the foundation gradually. When these pillars weaken, the relationship becomes unstable, and the connection, once vibrant and strong, begins to crumble. A man who maintains respect for the woman and for himself creates an environment where love can flourish. He understands that respect is reciprocal. It must be given and received freely. This respect fosters open communication, empathy, and kindness, essential qualities for navigating life's inevitable challenges together. Purpose and vision demand active participation. They require conversations about dreams, values, and expectations. Without these dialogues, assumptions fill the gaps and misunderstandings multiply. A man who engages in this process demonstrates commitment and investment in the relationship's future. When these core elements are nurtured, the relationship becomes a source of strength and joy. Each partner feels seen, valued, and motivated to contribute their best selves. They share not only a life, but a destiny shaped by shared goals and mutual respect. The loss of these elements signals more than just a break in a romantic relationship. It reflects a deeper disconnect from the ideals that give life meaning. A man who leaves without respect, purpose, and vision is often searching to reclaim these qualities within himself or to find them anew. Recognizing the importance of these pillars is the first step toward building relationships that endure. When respect, purpose, and shared vision are honored, they create a bond that no external force can easily break. It is this bond that keeps a man steadfast and a woman cherished, no matter the trials that may come. When a man begins to neglect the inner values that define him and allows distractions to take over his focus, the foundation of his relationship with the woman he loves begins to crumble. These inner values, principles such as integrity, loyalty, discipline, and self-respect, are the invisible anchors that keep a relationship steady amidst the inevitable storms of life. Without them, even the strongest love can falter and fade away. Inner values act as a compass, guiding a man's decisions and actions in all areas of life, especially in relationships. When a man holds fast to his core values, he navigates challenges with clarity and purpose, honoring the commitment he has made. However, when distractions, whether they be temptations, external pressures, or the endless noise of everyday life, pull him away from these values, confusion and weakness set in. His attention becomes fragmented, and his loyalty begins to waver. Distractions come in many forms: the pursuit of superficial pleasures, the pressure to conform to societal expectations, or even the simple busyness of life that leaves little room for reflection and connection. When a man allows these distractions to dominate, he loses sight of what truly matters. The woman who once held a special place in his heart may begin to feel invisible, replaced by a restless desire for something undefined but urgently sought. Neglecting inner values also leads to a loss of self-respect. When a man compromises his principles, even in small ways, it chips away at his confidence and integrity. This internal conflict manifests outwardly in his behavior, creating tension and mistrust. The woman senses this shift intuitively, feeling the gap where warmth and commitment once lived. The relationship suffers because it is no longer built on the firm ground of mutual respect and shared ideals. Moreover, when distractions pull a man away from his inner values, he becomes more vulnerable to making choices that damage the relationship. Impulsiveness replaces thoughtful decision making, and short-term gratification overshadows long-term fulfillment. This imbalance causes instability and often leads to regret and loss. Discipline is one of the most crucial inner values a man can cultivate. It is the strength to stay focused on his goals and commitments despite obstacles or temptations. Discipline keeps the relationship alive by ensuring that love is expressed not only through words but through consistent actions. Without discipline, promises are broken, efforts falter, and trust erodes. Loyalty is another vital value that binds a man to his partner. It is more than faithfulness. It is a conscious choice to prioritize the relationship and protect it from outside influences. When loyalty weakens, suspicion and insecurity grow, creating a fertile ground for separation. The distractions of modern life make it easy to lose sight of these essential values. Technology, social media, work demands, and constant stimulation pull attention in countless directions. Yet, the man who remains vigilant, who guards his inner values like precious treasures, stands firm. He recognizes that these values are not burdens but the very foundation of freedom, the freedom to love deeply, to commit fully, and to build a life of meaning. In the end, when a man leaves the woman he once loved, it is often because he has lost connection with these inner values. His departure is not merely physical, but spiritual and emotional, a signal that he must realign with the principles that define his true self. Restoring this connection requires courage, self-discipline, and the willingness to eliminate distractions that cloud the heart. A man who rediscovers and recommits to his inner values renews not only his relationship but his entire life. He becomes a beacon of stability and strength, capable of nurturing love that endures beyond time and trials. This is the power of living with intention, guided by the unwavering compass of one's highest values.